Hello, I hope you have a beautiful day. And in this video, I talk about workaholism. So, what is workaholism and how can we get out of workaholism? And yeah, because it's an interesting topic for me also. So, what is workaholism? I think there are different definitions and that I came across during my research, but the one that really I liked a lot is that it is similar to an addiction. So it's not just about working a lot, it's about the intention behind it. It's kind of this intention of avoidance of certain trauma or hardships that you don't know how to deal with or you try to avoid, and the form of avoidance that you use is work. So such as other people use alcohol or other types of avoidance objects or something like that, you use work, and it's obviously not healthy, and it can be quite and is very often quite destructive to your life. So for example, for me, I I tried to create a nutrition business and I put a lot of work into it. And of course, when you first start a business, you have to put a lot of work into it for it to grow. But still, the way that I did it, it was not so healthy because I was not really addressing certain types of trauma that I have. And I was trying to work those trauma away, and of course that is not possible. So for me, that's also really interesting to understand what workaholism is all about. There is also, I don't know if you have watched it, the TV show The Bear, where there is Cammy. Cammy is also, I would personally classify him as a workaholic. He is a chef and he's amazing good at what he does. He has those perfectionistic tendencies, but you can really see how his success in that one area in his life, his career, is amazing, but still the other aspects of his life, like personal relationships, romantic relationships, it's really not going that good. And you can really see the mentality about what workaholism is all about. It's kind of this not knowing how to deal with certain life situations, such as, for example, loss of a loved one, etc. And because you don't know how to deal with it, you think, oh, I just want to avoid it, so you use work to avoid it. And I think right now in the society that we have, at least in Germany, I'm from Germany, we have, I would personally classify it as more capitalistic. So the value of human is in some ways reduced to their efficiency and kind of what they can produce and how much they can work. And I think so those types of people who have this workaholism, very often they reach success, so they very often not always get that external validation, and that makes it also such a dangerous drug, I would say, because you get that external validation but still your internal world is not that healthy. So very important difference between passion and workaholism. Passion for something, it gives you joy, like you want to work all the time because you're just so passionate about it. It feels joyful, it feels exciting, it gives you energy, and it most likely also benefits other parts of your life because you just have more life energy and you're more happy. But workaholism, it really comes from this point of avoidance. It is much heavier. It is a way of trying to run away from your problems by just working more, which doesn't work, and it can be detrimental to your relationships. Because imagine you're in a relationship and you have problems in a relationship because, for example, there is a certain conflict, and instead of communicating about the conflict, you just retreat in your work, you avoid the situation, and your partner, of course, as a consequence, doesn't feel loved and they retreat. So there's this huge conflict within the relationship, and it just gets worse, and eventually it could end to a breakup if you do not address the issue. And also when it comes to, for example, business, if you have a business and there's a certain problem within the business and you try to avoid the problem within the business by just working more on a different area, it can still lead to the downfall of your business because you're not addressing what is really the thing that you should address, what is really the real problem. And also in your personal life, if you have a certain type of trauma, Like if you have gone through a certain abuse and difficult life situations, it will leave a scar on you, and if you don't heal it, it will impact different areas of your life, your business, your relationships, your job, career, etc. So that's why it's so important to address these. But if you don't do it, and if you just work more, those issues will never get addressed. So they will subconsciously still rule your life, and it can actually, lead to very difficult and very sad outcomes. So that's why it's so important to know about workaholism. And there's many more signs. So one sign is of course working a lot and you do a lot more than what is actually expected of you. And again, if it's a passion, it's great. If it's workaholism, it's not so great. And use it as a way to avoid feelings, emotions, difficult situations, conflicts. You don't find any joy in other things anymore, or any use in other things anymore, such as relationships. For you, the only thing that matters is your work, because it numbs you also in a way. Another sign is if you put all your self-esteem and value as a person in your job or your career. That can be a very dangerous thing to do. Another thing is that you just feel lack of or lose loss of control in different areas of your life, and you feel like your career is the only thing that you can control, so that's where you put your focus on. And also, if you try to relax, you cannot relax, because your body is always in this fight or flight mode, is always on go mode. So even if you would actually try to calm down, it's not possible. So many people also have like sleeping problems and all of that, and also perfectionistic tendencies, very low and very harsh negative self-talk, which can also lead to burnout and depression and to worse things, of course. So it's really not that positive. And another sign could be this obsession with work-related success. So, and this kind of need to define yourself with the from exterior validation. That's also really, or could be a sign. Yeah. And why it's not good, I already mentioned, because your relationships can demise if you do not address certain conflicts that you should address. It can lead to rupture in a relationship, loss of relationships. Even if you had a good relationship with a partner that was good for you, it can still lead to a breakup, and you can feel very lonely. And then you, in order to suppress this feeling of loneliness, you work even more, and it doesn't work. So it's kind of this downward spiral that can happen, and then you feel very depressed also. Also, it can lead to a burnout, which can lead to you having to shut your business down, or you having to quit your job because you just feel burned out, you don't have any joy anymore. You can not care about like your body or your like physical or mental health anymore, so you can gain a lot of weight, and you can just feel miserable basically. And also, you don't solve your trauma. So most likely, if you have children, you just give your trauma to your children, because you have not solved it or dealt with it. So it's not very positive. Strategies to overcome workaholism. I think the best thing you can do is to go to therapy, to actually have someone who is, or like a coach or something like that, who specializes in workaholism and who has understanding about this issue, so that you can really figure out why you have that tendency, why you chose work as a coping mechanism to avoid certain emotions, trauma, etc., and so that you can really address very often the trauma that is beneath that workaholism, and that you have support, that you have someone who can support you in that trauma journey if you have trauma. And I think that's very, very valuable, because very often we don't see what we don't see. So if we have a coach or a therapist who can support us in that journey, it's very, very helpful. More things, I think there's like Workaholics Anonymous, so it's kind of groups, online groups, or also physical groups that you can join with people who have similar experiences, who had similar experiences than you, and you can talk about those topics in a group, which is beautiful and wonderful. And more mindset shifts. So, for example, one really important mindset shift is to let go of over identification with your work. So, you are not your career, you are not your work, you are much more. So, that is so important to understand that, and that you are much more than your career success. So, for example, if you write a book and your book is successful, that is amazing, but it doesn't define you as a person. You're so much more. And to have that separation between yourself and your career is very important. And to understand that you, like, the external doesn't define your self-worth. Your self-worth is defined by your internal. So you are already worthy just as a person, just because you're born, because every person, the moment they're born, they have certain self-worth as a human being, as a living being also. So that is very important to understand, that you're not defined by the external. You're already valuable as you are. That's very important, because if you don't do that and you have that over identification with work or with your career, what happens is that life doesn't always go great. It's impossible, because life is always up and down. So, and that same goes with, usually, I mean, there are exceptions, but usually also for business or for your job, that there are some times that are more difficult. But if you over identify yourself with your job and or your business, and your business or your job goes down, it will also affect you as a person a lot. And if you have that over identification with your job or career, it can really have detrimental effects on your mental health, and it can really lead to a lot of horrible things. So it's so important to separate yourself and to understand that career is one part in your life. So your job is, of course, a really important part in your life, but it is one part of your life and not your life in a way. So there's more to life. There's like relationships are also a huge part, your career, the food that you eat, and in a way like taking care of your physical body with like sports, and also hobbies or like passions. That's also a huge part of your life, and it's so important to have like those different parts. It's like a table. If you have a table with 4 different arms in a way, then it's much more better or much more healthier, because the table, if one leg breaks away, the table is still standing, because you still have like friends, hobbies, and your physical health that can keep you, or that can keep you as a person, and that can keep the table standing. But if you only have a table standing on one leg, and that one leg breaks down, because that's just life, you will lose your job maybe, or your business will have difficulties, then the table falls, and you as a person also fall down. So that's why it's so important to stop that over identification with work. You're much more than your work, you're much more than your job, you're much more than the money that you make or the money that you don't make. And you are like, job is just your job, and your career is one really important part of your life, but it is not your life. That is very important to understand. Another thing that can help is to address the trauma and the underlying trauma. That's something that I had to do, like to really, once I really had that support from the therapist, to really address the trauma and really grieve and mourn and all of that, and process a lot of different emotions. But once I did it, I could really let it go, and I could stop running away from it or trying to distract myself or overworking in a way, because I could really sit with it and feel it. And that was very helpful, and it really changed a lot, and it made things a lot better. Yeah, so that is really important. Another thing that you can do is to to not put your self-esteem or base your self-esteem on your productivity. Again, you're more than your productivity. And I think for women, it's also really important to understand that women are different than men based on our biology. So women having a different cycle. We have a moon cycle, so every month we go through different phases, especially if you don't take hormonal contraception and your hormones are still not influenced by any types of pills. Then we have a cycle of 4 different phases, so follicular, ovulation, luteal, and then menstruation. And based on that, also our mood and our productivity will most likely shift and change. And it's very important for women also, and that's what's also very important for me to understand. I'm just not a man. I cannot function like a man, and I should not function like a man because I have a completely different biology. Like, men have a completely different rhythm that their anatomy is built on. And so that was really important, that for example when I have go through the different phases, that sometimes I have more energy, sometimes I have less energy, and that's completely normal because that's just what it means to be a woman, also to have that monthly cycle and that monthly um, change in mood, change in energy, change in shift. And yeah, so that was really important. You're more than your productivity, and also you're more than external success. I think the past years I really was craving validation from a certain person, and I had to give up and understand that that person cannot give me validation no matter what I will reach in my life. So it was a really internal process for me to let go of external validation. And that's also when I kind of met my boyfriend, and he likes me the way that I am, and I don't even have to be successful, quote unquote, in society, how society perceives success. And that was also really important for me to understand, that it's important to have people in your life that accept you for who you are, and also to accept yourself for who you are, and that you're a valuable person if you have success or if you don't have success. Because what's really important for me now is that I'm happy, that I'm surrounded with people that I like, that lift me up, that are good for me, and that I have some type of enjoyment out of the work that I do. But if I have success or if I get a big validation or a big recognition, it's not important for me anymore. Or not that, like, of course I would be happy like everybody probably would, if I would get like recognized or something, but it's not my goal anymore. What's also helpful is, again, to recognize your job is just one part of your life, and also to let go of outdated beliefs. So for example, I think for self-employed people, there's this belief, if you're self-employed you have to work every day, all the time, and to question that belief and ask yourself, is it really the case, or is it just that I undervalue my services, that my prices are too low, that I have, for example, already enough money and I could take a break for 2 days a week, and I can take the weekends off. Yes, will I make less money? Yes, but also I don't have to work all the time. That can, for example, also, of course, every situation is different. For some people it's not plausible, but to still ask yourself, am I working based on beliefs that I have, that were programmed by me, by society, family, friends, or is this belief actually really helping me? That can be helpful. And also, yeah, that it's okay to take breaks. So recovery steps. First of all, it's important to recognize that this overworking is an unhealthy pattern, because if your relationships and your personal life over an extended period of time is suffering a lot, it's not healthy. Another thing is to get therapy and to join like workaholic anonymous groups. That can be so helpful to have also professional help, and to discuss with your therapist, okay, what is it that I'm avoiding? Am I avoiding my own emotions or trauma or things like that? The third thing is to plan time for fun and enjoyment in your life. So things like, have hobbies that have nothing to do with your career or your career or your job, but they make you happy, and they are like, you don't need to perform, You can perform, but you don't need to perform. You don't need to make money. You don't need them for survival. It's just pure excitement, pure joy. This can be reading, playing chess, dancing, spending time in nature, spending time with your dog, whatever it is. But having something that is not monetized can be very, very helpful for recovering workaholics, I would say. Also take care of your mental health and your physical health, so go for walks, maybe go to the gym or do some other type of physical activity that is good for you, and take breaks. So if you're tired, I mean, of course every situation is very different, but if you have the opportunity that when you're tired to take a break, it can be helpful, because sometimes when we don't take breaks, even though we could, but if we don't take breaks, eventually our body will catch up with us, and then one day we have to take a long break. So it's better to take like smaller breaks, so that we can actually live a better life. And now some quotes, and then it's already over the video. So first of all, affirmations to heal from workaholism. The first one, I used to think that I have to work like ultra hard. If not, everyone get ahead of me and I will lose everything. But now I know that life is not a race. So I can choose what I want my life to look like, and I can choose what success is for me, and I can choose what I perceive as to be a happy life. So again, coming back to making your own definitions about your own life. Another thing is, I used to think that validation from certain people would be the most important thing, but now I recognize that it's not important. What is important is my own validation that I give myself, and how I define myself. That's important, not how the external defines me or myself. Another one is, I used to think taking breaks would hurt me. Now I know that not taking breaks will hurt me. I used to think that work comes first. Now I know that I have to come first. I used to think that being happy is a sign of complacency. Now I know that it's important to be happy, and it's important to celebrate also success, because that's also what keeps me going and what gives me a happy life also. And one last one. I used to think that I would never do enough, but now I recognize that I do a lot. So that was the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. You can write me an email if you have a similar experience that you want to share. You can check out the link in the description box if I'm offering something, because who knows, maybe I do. And thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you like it, and have a beautiful day. See you soon.